fully decked out in bills, huh?
All right, Chris, I'm gonna make you a deal. To win $5, you need to name three current NFL players. But if you can't, I win $10. Go.
Uh,
Welcome back to Crosscut, everybody. I just won $10 from Chris. Yes.
I never agreed to it. I never agreed to it.
You
So,
verbally, mentally agreed to it in your head. Anyways, yes, welcome back to Crosscut, everybody. I'm your co-host, Josh.
I'm your other co-host, Chris.
So, as you can see, one of us is decked out, one of us clearly is not. We are continuing this, I don't know, I guess we're on a bit of a, since we've been back, we've been on a bit of a 90s spree, you could say.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we did Jingle All the Way, we did Blank Check, now we're going to do another 90s movie. But I also figured that with the Super Bowl coming up in a few weeks, as well as the college football championship this upcoming Monday, by the time this episode airs, I thought it'd be fitting to go and do a football movie. And what better football movie to do than the greatest football movie ever, Little Giants.
Giants.
So I did something that I have not done in about 25 years, I'll say. I watched Little Giants on VHS. I bought this, I don't know, like a year or so ago.
Okay.
And when I decided to do this episode, I was like, how can I watch this movie? I knew it was streaming somewhere on for free, whatever. And I was
Not
like,
really.
oh, wait a minute. It was on, like, I think it's on like Roku TV, or it was like a Roku
I
channel or
had to
something.
watch it on YouTube with ads.
Yeah, YouTube had it with ads, so that is an option for people watching if you do want to watch the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided to watch it on good old VHS. I boosted up the old VCR and popped it in. Oh man, did it bring back some memories. So first of all, I gotta say, this is how I watched this movie as a kid. I watched this so much on VHS. So I will say this,
Mhm.
Little Giants is my favorite kids sports movie. Obviously,
Really?
we talked about Sandlot, which is a big one. We did that episode last year. We obviously Mighty Ducks, which came out in '92. That was like the big kids sports movie that really kicked off all of this. But Mighty Ducks would be like not the original, but like D2 Mighty Ducks, D3 Mighty Ducks would be a close second to my favorite. But my favorite has always been Little Giants. God, I love this movie, and I just watched it so much as a kid, and then I would revisit it every so often. And man, this movie just hits me in the heart so much. I was tearing up watching this movie. But I must say, man, did you ever watch this on VHS as a kid?
Not on VHS, not that I can remember.
Okay.
I don't remember how I watched it either. I just remember it was on TV, or my brother later on just burned it on a DVD. I remember certain parts of that movie, and I for some reason I can't remember the whole thing. It was just like it was spotted, and I had completely forgotten that Rick Moranis was in this. Certain lines from the movie, and now I noticed like that I used those lines, and I had forgotten where I heard them from.
I think one of my favorite lines is still, they're in the huddle and they all start fighting, and the one kid goes, "You're not invited to my birthday party."
Who cares?
Yeah, this movie's got some great moments. Very memorable. This is definitely a millennial type of movie that you look back on. I just was, talking about the VHS. They did this movie had back in the day when you would put a VHS in, it had a little animated short film that played before it. Because this is a Warner Brothers movie, so it was kind of like a Looney Tunes short film that played with a singing frog called Michael J. Frog. I'll see if I can find the link for like on YouTube.
Okay.
And I was watching, I was like, God, this does kind of seem familiar from like when I was a kid, like this specific like short before I would watch Little Giants. And then of course it went into some trailers for some movies. One of them was Richie Rich. So they did a Richie Rich trailer, and then a couple other movies, and I was just like, man, this is hitting me in the nostalgia right here. So
I can imagine, especially with seeing it on VHS.
because right away it had the little bit of like a little, like, and then the movie was fine throughout, but like in the beginning it had to like kind of, it was a little staticky, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is yeah. And then of course the movie played, and I was in it, man. I was loving it. So yeah, I wanted to talk about a little bit of the behind the scenes of this movie. So did you ever read about how this movie came to be actually?
No, I don't really
Okay.
know much about the behind the scenes actually.
So you probably noticed this in the beginning with the credits. This is Amblin Entertainment movie, and this is Steven
I
Spielberg.
did notice that, yeah.
And he actually is kind of how this movie came to be. Back in like the early '90s, apparently there was a Super Bowl ad, a McDonald's Super Bowl ad that played, and I think it had it was like the Giants and the Cowboys in this McDonald's ad, and I think Steven Spielberg saw that and was like, "Ooh, we should develop a movie based on this."
Can we go to McDonald's now, Coach?
After the game, Lenny. This is only halftime. Now go sit down.
And that's kind of how everything started. And then there's the whole day I've been watching a bunch of great, like, there's been a bunch of like podcast interviews with some of the cast from the last few years, and they were talking about like behind the scenes of the movie and stuff like that. Yeah, I guess this movie went through like a lot of like kind of not reshoots, but a lot of like changes on the fly and stuff like that.
I did not know at all about Amblin Entertainment until I saw it on the credits.
Yeah, and then if I'll try to put some links to some of those interviews I was watching, but yeah, like the main girl as well as like the kid who plays Spike, they were doing an interview, and then the one little kid who scores the game-winning touchdown. They were talking about how like they got to go to like Amblin and meet Steven Spielberg, and I guess Spielberg was even on set one day, kind of like shadow directing. I think they said it was the scene where they're all doing the tryout in the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
So yeah, this movie was very, very heavy Steven Spielberg influence, and it has that feel to it too.
I was gonna say it does have that family feel that Spielberg has in all of his movies.
Just even the music, man. Like I think we talked about it with Jingle All the Way. Just like that, the music and like a '90s kids movie. It just, I don't know if we're just drinking the Kool-Aid, but it just has that. It just reminds you of like.
It just hits you in the feels.
It does. It does.
I watched it today, and I could not stop laughing.
This movie is so funny.
Such a good time, especially what's his name? The small kid with all the issues.
Jake Berman. That's
Jake. That's right.
Of course, the game-winning touchdown. Yeah.
I can't stop laughing at him because it's just too good.
Yeah.
I was waiting for the scene where he comes to practice all bubble wrapped pretty much in foam. It was like, I remember that.
And his mom's great too, especially when he scores or he gets that tackle. His mom stands up and goes, woo, 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 and everyone's just like looking at her. But yeah, the movie was making me laugh. I was having a good time laughing. This movie actually, I was tearing up. I'll be honest. I don't know. Same thing with Jingle All the Way. It's just like, I don't know. It does bring you back to like that, and just I was tearing up in certain scenes. It's like every time the Giants scored a touchdown, I actually teared up because it wasn't just them scoring a touchdown; it was the parents' reaction to them scoring a touchdown and how proud they were. And that that made me really feel good. As somebody who grew up
hot hands,
yeah,
when his dad's just crying because like, he actually caught it and he scored a touchdown.
Yeah, it gets you. And Tad's dad, where he's like, my son scored a touchdown. My son scored a touchdown. Like, yeah, I was tearing up. And
or when the boy, when he sees his dad.
Yeah, Johnny. Johnny runs to his dad. Yeah,
gets to
it
you.
was, yeah, it's just like it was done very well. So yeah, one of the behind the scenes about this movie is the original director. He actually wasn't. I guess he was kind of fired, but he wasn't fired. He was like an editor who was directing this movie. And then the movie apparently was taking very long to get done. And I guess the movie was very rushed. And we'll get into that later as far as how this movie didn't do too well at the box office. But for all the football scenes, they actually had a different director come in, different DP. I'm not sure if you recognize the DP listed in the credits. Janusz Kaminski. He's like Spielberg's famous DP that did Saving Private Ryan and like all those big movies, but was the DP for
I
this.
noticed the name in the credits.
For the football scene specifically, there was a different director and everything because they were falling so far behind, I guess. And then this movie came out. I think in one of the interviews they said the movie was supposed to be like a summer release, and then they were going to do this whole marketing, and then it ended up getting pushed all the way back to like October, and there wasn't like a ton of marketing. And the movie, I looked it up. The movie made $19 million on a $20 million budget, so it really didn't do too well. I think where this movie really lived, especially in kids' hearts in the '90s, was on VHS. This movie really kind of became like a cult movie, but it really gained its audience on home video with kids. I mean, that's where I watched it.
I was
all
gonna
the
say
time.
that's your experience because I just remember the movie just being played. The
Well,
characters have
talk
their own
about-
personalities.
Well, this movie has a great theme, and it's about not getting picked for sports. And there's another little emotional scene in the beginning where you see all the kids get rejected. Which,
Yeah.
by the way, they totally. I mean, there's like 4 kids that didn't make. They come on. They could have been on that team.
Of course, they could have.
That was not a big team that the Cowboys had either. Like they could have had the extra 4 kids. I think the point was the Kevin O'Shea, who was such a competitor, he didn't want those kids on the team. And then of course when it came to
the best of the best thing.
And when it came to Becky, it was because she's a girl.
Right.
Which we'll talk
the
about.
The only reason he didn't pick her. The only reason.
The best player out there. But yeah, this movie has a great kind of a message about being the underdog. It really is an underdog story. And what's funny is that I still think about this anytime because, I'm a big football person. I love NFL. I love college football. Anytime I'm watching a game, anytime a team is down 21-0, I always think of Little Giants. And I'm always like, well, if the Little Giants could come back from down 21-0, then any of these teams can still do it. Speaking of which, Chris, what would have been the final score of the game to win $5? What would have been the final score of the game?
Oh, I don't remember the score.
Well, I just told you they were down 21-0. So let's do some math.
What? Don't do math on me. Come on. Just tell me.
I'm not going to tell you. I'll let our audience figure it out. Audience listening, if you want to win $5 of Chris's money, in the comments section, tell us what the final score of the game would have ended up being. Think about it. And then Chris will give you $5.
Nope.
Well, you didn't answer the question. You couldn't answer the original question, so you owe me $10. Now you can't answer the question, so now you owe the audience $5. Yeah, I don't even want to know what you're going to end up owing by the end of this episode. So we'll keep it going. So yes, and then we start to get our ragtag team together, coached by Rick Moranis.
Yep, Rick Moranis.
Door
to door, pretty much trying to put together the team.
So this was one of Rick Moranis' last live action movies. Do you know kind of why?
Yeah, after his wife died.
Right. And then if you notice in the story, what is the story between him and his wife?
His wife left him.
Exactly. In the original script, his wife died. And they actually changed that because of him.
Because of him. Okay.
Yeah. But man, just watching this movie, like listening to those interviews with the kids, they were talking about how Rick Moranis, he wasn't very present on set. Like when they were filming, he was there, he was great. But after that, like he was just kind of not there. He just obviously like he was going through what he was going through. But I'm just like rewatching the movie, knowing all that, I still could not tell. Like that's how great he was in this movie. He was still classic, just like very.
He's a good actor.
Rick Moranis. And Ed O'Neill as his brother, his older brother. I always knew him from this. I never watched Married with Children. I never seen Modern Family, so I always knew him from Little Giants. Who was the jerky older brother. And then I must say, in the opening scene where they're kids, the one who played Danny, the Rick Moranis, him as a kid. Man, I don't think it's him,
He
but man,
looks
that looked like
just
Squints
like him.
from. That looked like
The
Rick Moranis, but it looked like Squints from Sandlot too.
I was thinking that too when
Yeah,
he
and I
does
think
look
I
like
I
him.
think as a kid, I always thought it was Squints from Sandlot, but then I grew up and I was like, oh no, that's not. It's different. But it just looked like him because of
He
the
really does.
glasses.
That's the second movie now that we think that's the same actor as before.
What was the other? Was it Blink?
When we did a blank check, we thought it was the kid from Billy Madison.
Oh, from Billy Madison, right,
It
right,
was
right,
actually Hook.
right. Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to say that real quick. And then speaking of people who I always thought looked like somebody else, so our main girl,
Becky.
Becky Icebox O'Shea. First off, one of the greatest football names in sports movie history. I'll admit I had maybe one of the reasons I watched this movie so much as a kid. I had a huge crush on her as a kid, man. I had a crush. Just like that kind of girl who could like kick your ass was just I don't know. It was so different and so unique. And there's another part of the story where it's like, girls can belong in sports too. The girls can play
Yeah,
along
oh
with the
yeah, they
boys.
can.
It actually happened in college football about 5 years ago. A girl ended up playing on Vanderbilt. She was a kicker, but she ended up on the team because it was the COVID year and there was like a lot of players weren't able to play. So
Right.
she ended up actually playing in a college football game with all the guys. It was kind of cool, actually. So,
Nice.
but you
Nice.
gotta thank Becky Icebox O'Shea for that. But my point in all this was the actress Shauna Waldron. Growing up, I always thought her and the girl from Halloween Town looked like each other.
Oh,
You know what I
now that you
mean?
mention it, yeah, they do look a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
they do.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think when I got older, I was always thinking. Not, I never got them confused. I always knew them separately, but I always just
Mhm.
remember thinking they look so alike, like Shauna Waldron and Kimberly J. Brown from Halloween Town. It's just like they look so close to each other. Like they probably were
They
up for
really
some of
do,
the same
actually. Yeah.
roles. But
Now that you mention it, 'cause I never put that together until right now. Like, huh?
she was the one though that did a lot of like the interviews. When I think she does a lot of like conventions and stuff. So if I ever see
Okay.
her, I'm gonna
Okay.
get my Little Giants VHS signed. But I do love her character. Like again, like that badass that can just like kick your butt, but then
Mhm.
also you see
You see her sensitive
the
side.
sensitive side,
Uh-huh.
yes, and you see
Like
her
she
starting to
needed that
fall in.
mother figure that was not there.
Sure, and then you start to see her fall in love with Junior
Hmm.
Floyd.
What a hunk. Hi.
That was funny when they're practicing and she can't concentrate because
Oh yeah.
she's so
Or he like gives her kind of
curious.
like a bro smack on the butt, and she goes, anytime,
Yeah.
But yeah, you see her starting to like fall for him, and then obviously that becomes a big part of the movie because she doesn't end up playing in the first half of the
Hmm.
game
Hmm.
because she wants to be a cheerleader because she's interested in him.
Right.
And, there's a nice little, that was another thing they talked about at the end of the movie. The last scene they're together, they're kind of jumping up and down, and you're thinking, like, oh, will they kiss? And they actually don't. And I guess they shot that scene like 6 times, like 6 different ways. And I think some of the times they kiss and some of the times they don't. I like that they don't kiss because I think it's like, I,
It keeps that innocent thing
yeah.
going.
And I think at that point, Junior kind of starts to have feelings because when she comes
Yeah.
out of the locker room and she's putting on the helmet. She says, "Call me Becky." He has a little smirk to him, and he's like, "Okay, like,
You can tell on his face, like, okay, Becky.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I might have some feelings for you, maybe.
yeah." So if they ever made a hypothetical Little Giants 2, which sadly they didn't, and I think that's because again the movie didn't do well. There was no sequels made because if the movie did well, like Mighty Ducks, I'm sure they would have made
Mhm.
more. Let's play hypothetical Little
Okay.
Giants 2. What would have happened? Because the movie ends and it
Mm.
almost sounds like they're going to combine teams, right?
Right. That was the idea for it. I mean, I can't really see like I can see them more of during summer break.
Oh,
Just
that
summer break playing and just trying out with both teams kind of
okay,
thing and their
okay.
relationships growing like um Becky and Junior, Spike trying to become good, maybe not good.
Well, this is what I would have thought. I could see certain members of the Cowboys, the ones that we kind of mostly knew throughout the movie, those 3 or 4, they end up on the Giants, and then together it's Rick Moranis and Ed O'Neill as the kind of duo coaches,
Right.
trying to make it work, and then they're working as a team, and then there would have been like a bigger enemy, or like another. I think they would have expanded to where you've seen like the Pee Wee Football League, and there would have been more games played, but they're still trying to figure it out together.
Now, would you say that like they have to work together against another team? I can see another little Pee Wee team, but the coach is Spike's dad.
I think the Cowboys, the Giants would have been together. It would have mostly been the Giants and then a handful of Cowboys players.
Right.
I could have seen the dynamic being Ed O'Neill is like the assistant coach, but obviously he's trying to take over, and that would have been like his character development. He needed to realize he needed to. Like,
he needs to tone down, let his brother take the chance.
Right. And it's like them working together, like, he's the physicalness, and then Rick Moranis is the creative little playmaker that they come up with and stuff like that. Right. So, yeah, I don't know. It just would have been hypothetical to see what, I don't know, like what a sequel could have ended up being. But ultimately, I'm glad this movie is out there and exists. I revisit it every so often, and it definitely lives in my my nostalgia bank of good times.
And not to mention that there were actual players in the movie.
There were. Can you name at least 2 of them?
Emmitt Smith. That's it. I can think of.
Such a Cowboys fan.
Hi.
There was Bruce Smith, Buffalo Bill, Bruce Smith.
Okay.
And obviously John Madden. Tim Brown, who played, I know he played for the Raiders. And then the big guy who is like the lineman. I can't remember his name. I think it's like Steve something. So, yeah, these were very famous players in the 90s. Or
I like how they
for the best team in the world, Buffalo Bills. Yeah, how you Cowboys doing, Chris?
At least they won Super Bowls. I still
how long ago was that?
The last one was 93.
Can you name one player on the Cowboys right now?
No.
Great. Now you owe the audience another $5. We're at 20 now.
No.
We're at 20.
But either way, like I liked everything that they came up with. How their plays evolved every time. The was it the
annexation of Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't know if that. I was watching with a little bit of a critical eye, football wise. I was like, I don't know if that would be. First of all, they were at the 1-yard line, so that was a 99-yard touchdown, which is pretty crazy to think about, actually, like to have that. Plus, you're putting the ball down in the end zone, so if the Cowboys picked that up, they would have won the game. So that was a risky play.
They weren't expecting it, though.
They weren't, and that's why it worked. The Giants, they shut them out in the second half. Cowboys didn't score any points. Just to think, if they had Junior and Becky in the whole game, that would have been an ass whooping.
Oh, yeah. They would have won faster.
Little Giants, the 1994 kids football classic that still holds up to this day. I absolutely loved it. I was crying. I was laughing. My childhood Josh was still crushing on Becky Icebox O'Shea. And Chris, who doesn't own any football memorabilia, owes us all $20. So we'll figure out a time and place to make that happen, Chris.
I never agreed to it, so that does not happen.
All right, Chris, I'll give you a last redemption. If you can name in order the Giants that scored the touchdowns, but you need to name their characters' nicknames. I'll give you their regular name, okay? We'll end it here. And for our audience, play along. So we'll end it here. I'll tell you the name of the character, but you need to tell me what his nickname was.
All right, sure.
All right, ready? How about this? You only need to get 2 out of 3. Number 1, Tad was his nickname. Rick Moranis even says it in the intro. It was on the back of his shirt. He even holds up the shirt in the locker room.
Yes. And
Give
it's...
up.
Oh, wait. It's oh my God. What was it?
Chris, it was Rad Tad Simpson.
Rad Tad.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Number 2. This was Hanan.
Hot Hands.
All right. The last one. This might be the trickiest one because I don't think they verbally say it. It's only on the back of his jersey. Number 36, Johnny.
Ooh,
This is going to be a tough one. Johnny Venaro.
right.
And his last name might have the same letter as his nickname. This is to not owe any money, but we're doubling up. So if you lose this, you owe us all 40 bucks.
No. I don't remember because I know he only says nicknames in the when he's like introducing them at the house, and he does mention his.
But it's also on the back of his jersey.
Oof, I don't remember.
All right. It was Viper.
Viper. Oh my
Yeah.
god, that completely.
Yep.
Viper.
All right, 40 bucks. All right, everybody. Well,
Nah.
that's a wrap on this episode of Crosscut. Chris owes us some money. I'm going to use it wisely, get myself something good to eat. Everybody else will be in touch on how Chris is going to get you this money. Don't put cute dogs in the screen and think that that's going to make it any better.
No. Molly says no. He
Well,
didn't agree.
Molly needs to tell her daddy to start watching more football. Come up to date. All right, Chris, that's a wrap. Take it from here.
Cup print. Moving on.
All right, Chris, go out for a pass. See, if you had a football, we could have made it editing work where I throw it and then, you catch it. Pretend the dog's a football. Oh, don't use your dog as a football, Chris. What's wrong with you?